The metallic clang of spent shells against the concrete floor echoed through the empty shooting range. Dust hung in shafts of sunlight, drifting lazily through the morning air, disturbed only by the sweep of her broom.
Emily,
Lawson, meticulous and quiet, moved from lane to lane, collecting brass and organizing targets with care. It was a simple task, a mundane, almost meditative routine, but that serenity shattered the moment she heard it, the faint, deliberate click of a gun being readied somewhere beyond the outer doors. If I tell you what happened next, tell me in the comments where you're re-watching from. I love knowing who's listening. Emily froze, hands paused mid-sweep, her body tensing instinctively. She had trained for emergency drills before, but nothing in her civilian life had prepared her for a situation like this. She could feel the air shift, heavy with anticipation, and her pulse quickened, not with panic, but with clarity. Something was very wrong. Someone had crossed the line, and she was right in their path. The doors at the far end of the range burst open. Masked figures stormed in, weapons drawn, moving with precision that betrayed military training. Emily's first instinct was to protect herself and the few instructors still in the building. She ducked behind a stack of targets, hands gripping a nearby pistol, muscles coiling as adrenaline coursed through her veins. From the corner of her eye, a shadow moved with controlled speed. A Navy SEAL in full tactical gear had already engaged the first assailant. His movements fluid, practiced, almost surgical. He thrust himself between the hostiles and the civilians. Emily watched, captivated and terrified. Every instinct screamed for her to stay down, yet something inside her demanded action. The SEAL's eyes locked briefly with hers, a silent acknowledgement. It's not a word, just a look that conveyed, "You can do this. Stay with me." Emily's hands trembled as she picked up another weapon, her heartbeat echoing in her ears. She moved as he moved, a hesitant partner in a deadly dance she had only seen in movies or nightmares. The first assailant fell, surprised by the speed and coordination of their combined effort. Emily had never felt power like this before, intoxicating and righteous all at once. Outside, a low rumble signaled backup. But inside, it was only them, the small, unlikely team of one civilian and one elite operator, against a tide of danger. The SEAL moved like water, slipping through tight spaces, disarming and disabling with effortless precision. Emily mimicked his rhythm, learning in real time. Each shot she fired was deliberate, careful, aimed not to kill recklessly but to protect. Time seemed elastic. Seconds stretched into eternity as the threat pressed closer. Dust rose in spirals from the floor as bodies collided and weapons clattered. Emily's mind raced, revisiting fragments of her past military simulations she'd once watched in documentaries. Childhood lessons from her father about courage, even quiet nights spent practicing self-discipline in her garage. It all converged into a moment of action she never thought she'd experience. She thought she'd never see him again. She was wrong. The SEAL ducked behind a barricade, signaling her forward. Emily advanced, steady now, confidence building with each movement. They cornered the last assailant near the storage area. Emily's breathing was even, her hands no longer shook. When the SEAL struck, she followed instantly, blocking the man's escape and subduing him until authorities arrived. A silence fell. The room was thick with tension, dust, and the metallic scent of spent shells. Civilians cautiously emerged from hiding, eyes wide with disbelief and gratitude. Emily's gaze met the SEAL's again. Respect, relief, and unspoken acknowledgement passed between them. She had discovered something within herself that day, the courage to act when it mattered most, the ability to protect when ordinary instincts alone would not suffice. Authorities swarmed the scene, taking statements and detaining the intruders. News crews would call her a hero. Neighbors would whisper about the quiet woman who had saved lives. Social media would buzz with disbelief. But Emily didn't dwell on the accolades. She returned to her broom, sweeping the floor as if nothing had happened. The world outside, still chaotic, the range returning to its false calm. Later alone, she thought of the CAL's calm, assured presence, the way he had guided her without words. She realized that heroism isn't always flashy. Sometimes it's the quiet decisions in the midst of chaos that define a person. Her life before this moment felt distant now, like a prelude to something larger she had only just glimpsed. because courage doesn't always wear a uniform. Sometimes it's hidden in a civilian's hands, in a mother, a teacher, a friend. And sometimes the right person shows up just in time to remind us that humanity is capable of brilliance, even in the darkest moments. Emily set the broom down, dust motes dancing in the last rays of sunlight, and allowed herself a small, quiet smile. Because bravery doesn't vanish, it waits, and it finds its way back. She had tidied the range that morning, but she left it knowing she had done far more than cleaning floors. She had safeguarded lives, tested the limits of courage, and discovered an inner strength she never knew existed. If this story moved you, leave a comment sharing your thoughts. Subscribe to Whispered Words for more stories of unseen bravery. And remember, heroes aren't always who we expect them to be.